Kamen Rider Rouge.
Hey YouTube, Kamen Rider here with my review of BCR Series 11, Kamen Rider Rouge. Just want to make a note, this is a little bit out of chronological order. I'm a smidge behind on build stuff, partly because I'm trying to still have everything come out in a mostly chronological order, mainly pertaining to the figures, but I wanted this review to be a little bit more relevant. It's still going to be kind of late, but basically the whole point of this long-winded spiel is that this will be hitting the channel before Grease and Claws, and so there might be some things I've said in this video that I will repeat in the later videos, but that was actually the first time I realized or said them. Basically, weebly wobbly timey wimey. This is probably all relevant to you and you don't care, but I just thought it was worth mentioning just in case. Anyhow, just to start, I'm not going to go too in-depth into the box, but since I usually have it here in the review, I did want to point out how absolutely awesome the box art for Rouge is right there. Just really cool. But anyway, so Grease and Claws deviated from the typical BCR formula, given that their gimmick is inherently going to be different than splitting apart and putting back together, and that is the same case here. Grease and Claws' main gimmick came from their helmet springing up. In this case, it's all about twisting. So you have that, sort of a blank slate, these open, you can sort of see the inside design of it, but you twist it around, and shkibeef! Like, look how much fun that is. Like, it's kind of neat. Admittedly, it's kind of neat, semi-satisfying, but I don't know. It's just kind of weird, because like the main part of this line for so long was splitting apart, putting back together, and then you have this. Kind of reminds me of the way X8 had multiple facets because of the way their riders and power-ups worked, but I don't know, it's okay. It's a solid effort, and as I will mention in those reviews, I at least appreciate them trying something as opposed to something like Beast Hyper in the WAP line where it was just literally a figure, like a lower line figure. Detail-wise, this guy's pretty okay, but like most of these, he hits most of the points he needs to. The purple plastic, for the most part, doesn't shine like it does in the show, but it looks pretty decent. It doesn't look too dull. It's got a bit of a nice dark color to it. The proportions on the helmet are a little fat because of the way it works, mainly because of these, and then of course, this is like one of the only ones in this line where you can move his head, but look how awkward that looks. It looks like a weird spawn with purple growths, so that's kind of unfortunate. But everything else is just very, you know, it's passable. That's kind of the best way I would describe this. It's kind of unfortunate with the gimmick too, because even though I respect that they tried to do it, I almost would have rather had them just make him a figure that I could move the head on and make a sort of cheaper alternative to figure arts, albeit slightly cheaper. The articulation is pretty much par for the course for these. You get a pretty solid range of motion, as you can see. As a broken record, I've often described these as a halfway point between a figure art and a Power Rangers action hero figure. Of course, something separating that is these classic fingers here, which remind me of Sochaku Henshin figures. It almost makes me feel old when I mention Sochaku Henshin figures. Like, who remembers those, honestly? Here you go, leg articulation. When I'm doing this, I feel like a doctor, just doing, like, the checkup while chatting with, like, the person that brought the patient in. Like, I'm like, hey, what about Sochaku Henshin's, guys? While I'm showing off their articulation. But you get a pretty solid range. No waist articulation. You do get head articulation. It's just weird. You do get the Nebula version of the wow, that's hard to say. Trans steam gun, but it's just like your classic Honko plastic, no paint, but there's lots of little intricate details in there, which is really nice. But yeah, he's an overall decent-ish figure. It's kind of weird with these because with the build ones, they were a bit of, I felt, a step down aesthetically from previous years, but there was at least some kind of fun to be had with the mix and matching. But with these whole instant helmet put on things, they're not quite as fun. If you really think that's cool and you want something immediately, great. Otherwise, if you're really after an awesome looking Rouge figure, I kind of recommend just waiting it out and seeing what the figure art looks like and whether that appeals to you more. It's going to be a smidge more expensive, but it might be worth it to you in the end. Again, this isn't awful, and I appreciate some of the attempt, but it's just nothing to write home about or that I could say is an absolute must-have for Rouge or overall Build Series fans. Anyway, that's about it. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Kamen Rider, signing out.